What's up, chickadees? It's Coop with Coops Grow coming at you here today with the first episode on my series for the individual ingredients within my Coops Grow compost tea mix and the benefits that come from each. Today's video is going over Biochar. I hope you can read this board. You probably are not going to be able to read the top because of the glare from the stupid light. But Biochar. There's a dash between that. At the top I wrote www.coopsgrow.com. I want you guys to check out that website. That's where you're going to be able to purchase a batch of my Coops Grow compost tea mix. If you want to subscribe as well, you can do that there, as well as get to know me as a gardener, get to know my product. I do also list out the ingredients on that website, the benefits, what it is, all of that. So therefore you guys have that as a resource as well as these videos. So basically, biochar. What is biochar? Biochar is feedstock, like wood, that is burnt at a temperature of like 662 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burnt at a lower temperature than other charcoal, like the briquettes and the other forms of charcoal. I don't really know the names of those, but they are burnt at a higher temperature, like 1200 to 1500 degrees. They actually break down a lot quicker because of the heat that they're exposed to. With biochar being exposed to a lower heat, but enough heat to activate what it's there to do, which I will be listing out those benefits, don't worry, follow along. It allows it to become more sustainable, something that's not going to break down as easily, something that's going to last, something that's going to stay loyal to the soil. If you haven't checked out Build a Soil, that's their slogan, loyal to the soil. Shout out to them, shout out to Jeremy. He taught me a lot, so if you haven't checked out their videos, check them out too. I'm not a hater. Wherever you guys can get your information, that's important for me, just to make sure you guys understand my product, understand gardening, period. I mean, we want to make sure we're having the most successful grows we've had yet. I mean, we don't want to just waste our time, kill plants, and not get what we're there to, what we're wanting out of the grow. I mean, we're not hopefully wanting to kill the plants, because that's weird. But yeah, so biochar. Biochar is that organic matter. So it's the organic matter, that feedstock being broken down at a temperature of 662 degrees Fahrenheit, around there. How it was found, I mean, when it was first used, just a little history lesson here so you get the background of it and the reason why it has become such a popular product. I don't know what that is. I get distracted easily. I have ADHD, so there's a diagnosis of me for you. So with that said, Amazonians were the first people to notice biochar as a benefit to their gardens. Amazonians, when they first established within the Amazon around like the 1500s, they started wiping out trees so they could create garden spaces, place spaces for their gardens. I mean, that way they could get that resource of food and different things like that, medicine, whatever they were growing required them to get that garden space. So they had that area where they could, get those plants to thrive. So with that said, they were chopping down those trees and not doing anything with those trees besides just throwing them to the side and doing whatever you want with them, like create fires and, a fire pit so you can stay warm at night, whatever the case may be. It's a waste. And in fact, it's a waste of a garden, because you're taking away that resource that the microlife in the soil was using in order to break down the nutrients within the soil and get that process going so the plants can grow, so they can thrive, so they can do what they're supposed to do. And with that said, the soil started depleting. They started degrading. They started turning into dead soil, which I consider to be dirt, and the garden started to suffer. So they started doing a slash and burn method, which is basically them using trees at that point. So basically, slash and burn method is them chopping down trees, and instead of just throwing them into fire pits and doing whatever they did with them, hopefully nothing. Hopefully they didn't just do nothing. Hopefully they did something, because that is quite the waste of a large or plant, which, I mean, a tree would be considered a plant, I think. I don't know. But slash and burn. So they would take the trees, they'd chop them down. You know it's a tree when it's got a hole in it. Hopefully you guys can see this, or else this is ridiculous. And then chop them down. That's them chopping it down. They take the wood, the bark, I mean not the bark, but the wood, and they would burn it. So that is the tree on its side, and they would burn it so it become ash. We're gonna call this ash. They use that ash in their garden. So basically they take that ash and use it as a fertilizer. So this is the garden, let's say that. And they take this ash and they water it into the soil and use that as a fertilizer. Hopefully you guys can hear me too, because that air conditioning is going off. So they use the ash as a fertilizer to water their plants. What that did, I mean, it helped in the short term, the short amount of time that it was available in the soil. This isn't something that was sustainable though. This isn't a loyal to the soil product. So burning the trees, using it as ash to, feed the plants only lasted for so long, only did so much good for a short period of time. So what they noticed was that instead of slashing and burning down the trees so they become ash, they started burning it at a lower temperature to where it became biochar. Biochar is kind of like, it's porous. We're going to call this biochar. It's porous, and it's got these, draw it here. It's got these vessels in them inside that are used as tubules to gather molecules, nutrients, water, and take them to the plant. So the root has access to the biochar. What's in these little porous areas that are really honestly considered chambers for microlife, like a habitat for microlife, they go up these tubules and they allow it to become, accessible to the plant. There's two tubules though that are used throughout, and they both basically do the same thing, but one goes both directions, one goes only down. Xylem only goes up or down, I can't remember. It's really not that important, unless you're really trying to get nitty gritty with it. And then the bottom one would be the phloem. So xylem and phloem would be what they are called. So xylem and phloems are what biochar is made up of. A bunch of tubules that transport molecules, nutrients, water throughout the plant, up the root zone to the plant in the areas that need it. So as for these chambers, the porous, texture of the biochar, microlife, actually, microorganisms, I call it microlife, it's easier for me to say. That's where the microlife lives. That's their habitat. It's like their apartment complex. They take the nutrients that they got within the soil, and then they take those nutrients and basically cook it for dinner. They ingest it, they ingest, and digest those nutrients that they just consumed. Therefore, they are now plant available. That broken down organic matter that was just consumed by the microlife is now plant available due to the ingestion, due to the consumption of that nutrient in order for it to be broken down and made plant available, it does need to be ingested through that microlife and excreted through their anus. Sorry. So with that said, microlife, nutrients, these are like apartment complexes. This is the biochar. So with that said, when they excrete it, it kind of goes, you know, down the toilet. You know, let's say they got toilets in here and they're, you know, going number 2, going number 1 in the toilet. Then they flush it. When they flush it, let's consider it going to these tubules. So this is like the sewage system, which is a nasty way of saying it, but it really is kind of like a sewer. So it takes those nutrients that are now within the pipes. Yeah, I'm really going to use this toilet analogy as a metaphor here. That were just flushed down the toilet and into the tubules, and it takes that plant available matter, that organic matter that is now plant available, up those tubes when needed to parts of the plant that need it. This is very important because this is a breakdown as to what exactly you're putting into your soil. I mean, to know what it is, to know where it came from, to know what it's doing and why it's there. I mean, why would you not want to know that? So that is what biochar is. And with that said, I do have notes. I want to make sure you guys are following along and that I'm not trailing off and that we're not here all day. So one thing about biochar is that the chambers for the microlife, they're using these chambers, again, sorry, I had to read some of that. They're using these chambers as kind of like a storage unit. I mean, again, it's their habitat. It's their home. So they have their stuff there that they store. I mean, they got the fridge where they're storing their nutrients and stuff. And then it's also protection from predators. I mean, just like how we have predators in our daily life, like people who don't have our best interests or, you know, don't have our back and really are honestly there for the wrong reasons, they got predators in the soil as well. It's not all beneficial. I mean, you can only control the environment so much to the point where, I mean, you're still going to have those predators available to, you know, take away the life of the microlife that you are needing within the soil in order to keep that process going of growing the plant. So it's protection from predators. So really having these chambers is so important. I mean, you can get these type of porous chambers in a lot of different things. I mean, like when you have your perlite in there, or you have your, why is perlite the only? Pumice stone? I don't know what it, I'm drawing a blank. But there's a lot of different types of aeration material you could put within the soil, like perlite. I don't use perlite, I use, wow, I can't think right now. I can't remember what I use, but it's kind of like a rock material, and it's got a lot of, it's very porous, and it's got those chambers for the, you know, as a habitat and protection for the microlife as well. So there's other ways of getting that in there, but the thing with biochar are these tubules. That's what makes it so beneficial, is the fact that it is making the plant available materials accessible to the root zone, which is therefore accessible to the plant. So with that said, I mean, the other stuff uses that too, but I mean, like the perlite does that too, except, I mean, this is literally in the root zone. This is not spread throughout the whole soil. This is directly in the root zone, holding those plant nutrients all in the soil. Not soil, the root zone. Well, in the soil, but in the root zone. So like, basically, well, that's really all I wanted to talk about with that. I'm not a teacher, all right? I'm not, but I'm here for you guys. I want to, you know, spread the word, make sure we're bettering ourselves as gardeners, And if I make a fool of myself trying to teach this stuff, so be it, man. So be it. Alright, so that is what biochar is. One thing that's important within the growing process, carbon. Carbon is so important. I mean, really getting that carbon in the soil is giving the life to the, getting the activity going within the soil. Without that carbon, you're not necessarily feeding the biology in the soil what it needs in order to breathe. I mean, you got the oxygen in there through the aeration, which is important as well. But the carbon that's going in there is going to allow that photosynthesis process to continue, because photosynthesis is the number one necessity when it comes to growing plants. I mean, they need that vitamin D. They need those stomata to absorb the light, so things travel, so things are alive. So, I mean, the whole circle of life is continuing to where that carbon is going in, the carbohydrates are going into the soil, allowing that food and those exudates and the sugars to feed the microbes in the soil. I mean, it is food for them. So, that's one thing. So, with that said, it provides a source of carbon needed in order to uptake nutrients. So again, that's that photosynthesis process. The exchange of those nutrients in exchange for the carbon, in exchange for the sugary substance, that being those exudates, that will come out of the root zone and exchange those nutrients to the microlife. So, it's a trade process. It's a trading process. Sorry, I just got a text, which is why it just looked weird right there. So, it improves drought tolerance due to the capillary action that occurs when the tubules draw in water and nutrients. Biochar releases the water and nutrients to different parts of the plant and microorganisms, occupying the chambers biochar provides. Just write that word for word. Kind of already said that. So basically, it's not going to overwhelm the plant with all that's accessible to the root zone due to biochar. It's going to give it when it's needed. To not have that nutrient toxicity, that nutrient deficiency, it's important to have the nutrients available when needed, and to, again, not overwhelm the plant with all the nutrients that are currently available. So it's something that's going to stick around. Again, loyal to the soil. Shout out to Jeremy at Build a Soil. Love that man. And that's one thing that's really cool about biochar is it's kind of like a filtration. So it's going to filter out, I mean, there's a lot that comes with it that I'll explain, but like it filters out those toxic heavy metals and different things like that. So what is being put in the plant is what you want to be put in the plant. So with that said, it provides positively charged plant nutrients such as magnesium, potassium, iron, manganese, all of which are described as cations, that being again positively charged plant nutrients. These nutrients are attracted to biochar because biochar's negatively charged surface area that acts as a magnet for cations. So basically, you got the porous type chambers here. This is negative, all right? Negatively charged. So this surface area, a positive and a negative come together. I mean, that's just kind of what you've learned in school, possibly, if you paid attention. I didn't really. I kind of learned all this stuff in my adulthood, when I wanted to. So you got the negatively charged surface area. This is the surface area, okay? Surface area. And then you got like potassium, which is K+. You got calcium, which is Ka2+. You got like, let's say, what else did I say? Manganese, which is Mg2+, etc. It's all going to the surface area due to the fact that these are charged. The plus within the breakdown, the abbreviation, that's, an element on the periodic table. So that's what these abbreviations are. That positive ion, positive reaction, positively charged ion, and nutrients are being magnetized. That's a word. Again, I'm not a teacher, guys. So this is like a magnet for them. They're going to attach, these nutrients are going to go in here with the microlife a lot easily, due to the fact that the microlife is already attracted to the chambers, plus the potassium, calcium, and manganese, those cations, those positively charged ions are going with the microlife and are sticking to it. I mean, it's not something that's going to run away due to the fact that it's like being repelled. One reason why it's not being repelled is because you inoculated the biochar beforehand. I forgot to touch base on this. One reason why I keep biochar in my compost teas is because it needs to be inoculated before use. One way to do that is by brewing it in a compost tea mix. So having it in the Coops Grow compost tea mix is going to allow you to skip the step of, having to figure out, how do I inoculate this? That's how you're going to inoculate it, is by putting it in a Coops Grow compost tea mix brewing process, which is that you're brewing it for 24 hours, taking that tea bag that I provide to you, placing it in 5 gallons of water, brewing it for 24 hours, squeezing that tea bag, get all those juices out of it, stirring it, and then using it on your plants. I mean, if you want to pH level pH balance the solution, the tea, you can do that. I don't. I just, do whatever nature, because when you're growing organically, I mean, those micronutrients are going to work through the alkalinity and the acidity no matter what. It's just what they do. I mean, when you're out in nature, people aren't out there pH balancing the rainwater that's being flowed into the water when it rains. I mean, that rain just goes in there and it's done for. All right, it's already touched base with the soil. So consider it like rainwater. But compost tea is way more complex than rainwater. So with that said, the negatively charged surface area that acts as a magnet for the cations. So these are cations. And then this is the surface area. I already wrote out surface area. Ooh, that's beautiful. I really hope you guys can read this. I mean, I'm drawing gold up here, man. Anyways, so the cations are living on the surface area of the biochar. With that said, it's being processed through a process called cation exchange capacity. So the cation exchange capacity is really honestly the releasing of those cations, the potassium and all those different nutrients that are positively charged into the tubules, up through the tubules to the root zone, up through the roots to the plant. I mean, these are now plant available, one, due to the microlife that's within the surface area of the biochar, that breaking it down, and just, it being there available to be released into those tubules, those vessels, the xylem and phloem vessels up to the plant. So that's one reason why I say that. So the cation exchange capacity is the process of it maneuvering through the surface area of the biochar and up through it to the plant. So, and again, that is not an overwhelming process. It's going to happen when needed. It's not going to be something that's just a constant flow. What it means when I talk about drought tolerance, the lack of going into the drought mode, is because it's the water capacity. It's retaining that water that you put in there, getting you more bang for your buck due to the fact that, one, all those nutrients are in the root zone. It's gathering all those nutrients and put it into those apartment complexes that are located in the root zone. So with that said, it's easily accessible. Those roots aren't going to uptake too much. I mean, you can only drink so much till your belly's full. I mean, if you drown yourself drinking water bottles after water bottles, I mean, yeah, water's healthy for you, but if you're drinking so much, you can actually drown from drinking too much water. That's another thing that happens with plants. They can drown. I mean, you don't want to overwhelm them with nutrients just because, I mean, nutrients are good for them, but do you pop like a vitamin every 30 minutes a day? Like, no, you take a vitamin in the morning and call it a day. Like, that's all you need. So, I mean, of course you need food and stuff like that throughout the day, but again, you're not eating full course meal every 30 minutes throughout the day. One, that's expensive. Groceries are super expensive right now. So I might go a little hungry if that's the case. But, so the cation exchange capacity would be this process. So embedded in biochar's carbon are compounds that react to create anions, which are negatively charged ions such as phosphate. One thing people don't realize is that phosphate is really honestly a pretty scarce nutrient within the soil, one that really should be replenished or made more plant available through different processes within the soil, such as getting it from the carbon that biochar has available to it. So with that said, getting that phosphate in there, that's a macronutrient. You need phosphorus. You need phosphorus during the blooming period. You need phosphorus throughout the whole grow. I mean, of course, during veg, you're going to need a smaller amount. But as you reach that blooming phase, you know, the ending part of the growing cycle, I mean, what you worked all this time for, I mean, what the plant put in all this work for was to get to the bloom. I mean, that's the product right there. That's the outcome. That's what you're working towards. So having that phosphate in there, having that phosphorus in there is going to give you the best outcome yet, which is another reason why Coops Grow Compost Tea Mix will give you the most successful grow you've had yet. It's got it in there. You're replenishing the soil. I mean, as you're using the soil, it's going to deplete. When you're not adding what it needs to the soil, it's all going to go away. It's all going to just not be there eventually. So, I mean, replenishing the soil with the carbon, biochar, you know, the other nutrients that are needed that have been depleted throughout the soil during the growth cycle, you're going to get that from Coops Grow Compost Tea Mix. And in fact, you'll get your bang for your buck, which is why I say it's nothing but value, savings, and success. So, I repeat that a lot. I want that to be imprinted in your brain. So basically, that's that. Biochar amended soils helps hold nutrients in the root zone so nutrients don't wash away by rain and don't escape as gas into the atmosphere. I mean, again, biochar is super good for the environment. So good for the environment. Having it stick with that negatively charged surface area, having it stick with the porousness and the microlife and those tubules not, you know, releasing the water and the nutrients at just, you know, an overflowing, overwhelming rate. I mean, it's doing it when it's needed. So what's in that soil is being retained at a more longer period of time due to the fact that it's going to release what's needed when needed. So that water holding capacity, so the water retention that comes from biochar is huge. I mean, the nutrient capacity and the nutrient holding availability is huge. I mean, it is bang for your buck when it comes to using biochar. Another reason why it's in my Coops Grow Compost Tea Mix. Soil carbon, nitrates, ammonium, and phosphorus availability increases with biochar amended soils. Again, those macronutrients such as the nitrates, you know, you're getting not the nitrate that is going to be harmful for your plant. Of course, that is always a possibility. But the nitrogen that is needed to grow your plant. I mean, nitrogen is one of the most major macronutrients when it comes to growing plants. I mean, even for us, we all need nitrogen. Plants need nitrogen to grow. So having that in there is going to be another way to replenish the soil with that nutrient, as well as the ammonium, carbon, and phosphorus. I mean, you're getting so much from biochar. But one thing that's interesting about biochar is that it doesn't even have any nutrients in it. I mean, it's literally just providing a home for the nutrients. It's providing the carbon, which has those nutrients in it. It's providing so much to the soil because of its living environment. the condition that it's bringing to the soil. I mean, it's a conditioner as well, a soil conditioner. So this is one reason why, this next thing is one reason why I say it's so good for the environment, is that it decreases greenhouse gases because biochar stores carbon in the soil through a process called soil carbon sequestration. This reduces global warming as well, with the reduction of carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere. One thing about photosynthesis is that like at the end of the process, I mean, really it's not the end, but I mean, it's one part of the process that's, you know, one of the last steps, is the releasing of carbon dioxide from the soil due to the fact that, I mean, it needs oxygen. It needs to release the carbon dioxide that the microlife is breathing out. Retaining that carbon dioxide within the soil is so healthy for the environment because carbon dioxide is one of the main contributors to global warming. Something that's bad for our environment, bad for us, bad for our plants. I mean, it's bad for the world that we live in. So keeping that eliminated, keeping that out of the atmosphere, something that we're not going to breathe so much, is huge. I mean, we don't have so much carbon dioxide in the air due to plants. I mean, plants are scarce nowadays. We wipe them out and build cities. What carbon dioxide is coming from is our mouths. We breathe carbon dioxide. With our population throughout the world being so high, I mean, the carbon dioxide just increases in percentage over time. I mean, carbon dioxide back centuries ago is not as high. Global warming was so much better back then due to the fact that the population was so much less. There was more plants available to breathe out the oxygen that's needed for us to, breathe. And with that said, that photosynthesis process was able to keep up with the production and the releasing of the carbon dioxide. I mean, when photosynthesis is not able to keep up with that carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere, it's not going to go back into the process. I mean, carbon dioxide is another way to do the process. I mean, it is a circle of life. That carbon dioxide goes into the photosynthesis process as it's being released from the soil. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but too much of it, I mean, too much of anything is a bad thing. So carbon dioxide is a huge reason why we have such poor global warming, poor environments, poor breathing quality, I mean, air quality and stuff like that. So, I mean, the weather conditions, everything comes into play when it comes to global warming. And if you don't believe in global warming, just get off my page. Get off my page, please. Because there really are people out there that don't believe in global warming. And I think that's insane. Biochar slows down soil respiration, absorbs ammonium, and reduces the formation of nitrous oxide, which is another greenhouse gas like carbon dioxide. So that nitrous oxide is a gas that you don't want to breathe in. I mean, again, too much of one thing is going to be a bad thing. And that nitrous oxide is one horrible thing for our environment. So keeping it and eliminating it from the atmosphere is another thing that's going to contribute to bettering our global warming and making sure that process doesn't expand. So last thing I want to touch base on, and I kind of touched base on this before, but it reduces toxic effects of heavy metals in soils, and the plants grow in these soils. So not everyone knows the heavy metals that are in their soil. They don't know the levels. They don't know what we're talking about. I mean, they're there. No matter what, you're going to have heavy metals. So having the biochar there is going to reduce the effect of those heavy metals, filtering them out so they don't go into the plant, and just overall reducing the effects of what those heavy metals would contribute if they were so at such high volume and so available that you're not going to get the outcome you want. So having, again, biochar in this, Coops Grow Compost Tea Mix doesn't just bring one or two benefits. It brings a whole range. And in fact, I wrote down 15 benefits on this list, which I have now gone over. And, I mean, the list goes on. There's books on biochar. There's videos on biochar. Just one ingredient having a topic that is able to make a whole book should explain to you, should prove to you how important, how beneficial, how much gold is coming out of using the biochar within your garden. So again, check out www.coopsgrow.com. Check out the other episodes to come. I mean, I don't just have biochar in my Coops Grow compost tea mix. I got worm castings, Asheville 16H. I mean, neem seed meal, just a whole bunch of different things that I want you guys to get to know. Therefore, you guys get to know my product and see that when I say it's nothing but value, savings, and success, that you will have the most successful grow you've had yet, and that this is nature at its best. I think I'll convince you. Probably, I mean, hopefully within just this one video. But for the videos to come, keep a lookout for them. Again, appreciate you guys watching along. Follow me. Follow, like, subscribe, comment, share, whatever you can do so we can spread the word and, you know, not just better ourselves as gardeners, but better the whole world when it comes to gardening. Because, again, global warming is real. Synthetics are killing our ground. Using the wrong things, I mean, we're not allowing our plants to thrive. We are our plants' providers. And I love to say that because it allows you to remember that there is a responsibility when it comes to you taking care of a plant. I mean, these plants are being taken away from nature and their natural habitat so you can provide to them. It's like taking, I don't know why bears came to my first, but bears, it's like taking bears out of their habitat and putting them into your home or your backyard and expecting them to thrive when they're not in their natural habitat. You gotta give them the habitat that they've known for so long, for centuries, for forever. Plants have been here forever. And with that said, it's very important to know what to do as a gardener when it comes to taking care of our plants. So thank you guys again for following along. I hope you guys are having some happy growing going on. And this is Coop. Watch out for the next video. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys. And happy growing.